Hello, hello, hello. Hello. Welcome. Welcome to the office hours, ladies and gentlemen. It's been a while. Sit around and listen. All right, let's get to the office, shall we? Welcome, everybody. My name is Paul, Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender at the AstroPub, your space bar at the end of Twitch, your space bar at the end of the universe. Sit back, relax, enjoy the show. We got a good one for you. How y'all doing? Gotta change that up a little bit because we don't just do Twitch. This is the office hours. This is a live stream where we cover Star Citizen news, content, and some other things as well. We might dip a little bit into Starfield as well, since that's coming up very soon. But, how y'all doing? Welcome again, everybody. Hey, Shinobi. Wise Guy, welcome. It looks like I might not be connected here. Oh, that's good. Let's double check. Oh, no, we're connected. That works. How y'all doing? Brent, how you doing? UEN Code Shepherd, welcome. Agent. So, it's been about a week now, so I feel like I'm a little bit better. For those of you who don't know why I didn't stream last Thursday or Friday, was because this last couple weeks sucked ass. We found out that our oldest cat had cancer, and we had to put her down. And that was painful because it was the cat we'd had since we were married. Got her just before we got married. So, AC Daddy. So that sucked. And then school started this last week. Like, this is the first week of school for me, so I've been exhausted. So hey, everybody. And so, you know, and a lot of people, I know a lot of people don't think cats of as family, but, you know, when you've had a companion that long, I don't care if that's a human being or a pet rock, losing it is can be kind of painful. But yeah, it was also for my wife as well, because, you know, my wife was shook up about it too. So I was running a little late because I got home at about an hour ago. Shoveled food in my mouth and went forward. Thank you, DJ AJ. We're going to slowly get back into stuff, though. I'm going to try to do a little bit of gameplay on Friday. Starting at 7, ending at 10 my time, so 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. So, hey, Shingo. Whew. I'm doing better, though. Just overall, I'm doing better. I'm just exhausted because, like, to give you an idea, I'm about 9 miles today, over 5,000 calories burned, close to 20,000 steps. So I've been on my feet, and the one problem I have with the summer is that I tend to not be as active during the summer, and just regular passive active, so I have to kind of work out more. I never worked out to this degree when I was over the summer, so my body is cooked. But yeah, that's basically been every day for the last week. Has been that. So emotionally, I've been drained. Physically, I've been drained. Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna be able to make it to CitizenCon, honestly, y'all. So right now, I'm not gonna be able to go. I don't have enough money for it, basically. I'll definitely go to the next Austin CitizenCon, whenever that is, probably 2025. But it's not just money though. Your DJ AJ, it's also in October when it's difficult for me to take that time off. I need that time off because of other family matters that I need to attend to in the near future. So, no, I'm not going to LA. And this is where I tell you all, I stab the Star Citizen community in the back and be like, hey, the next lore video is coming out, and it's not on Star Citizen. I'm, honestly, it's going to be difficult for me to do anything Star Citizen related for the lore videos, other than the complete history of Star Citizen lore, which I need to get done this month. I will do my best to do so, and I might take Friday off to get that done. Why am I not going to CitizenCon? It's a mixture of things. Funds is a big thing. And its scheduling is another one. And there's a whole list of issues. Like, I did the calculations, and for me to go, I'd have to spend around $3,000 to go. And to give you context, y'all, this last, because of how bad performance has been on YouTube, for instance, let me pull up my my studio. Between the two channels that I run, I made about $400. And Twitch, I earned about $700. So I had about $1,000. And of that, I would say 50% of it goes away for other things like subscriptions and other things I got to pay for, plus my editor and stuff like that. So it's like last month I effectively earned maybe $500, and CitizenCon's in October. And you need to book stuff in advance. So it's like, yeah, $3,000 is not something I'm going to ask the community to fund. Thank you, Drowsy. If they announce Squadron 2, I'll run around in the hall yelling and screaming for you. Thank you, Fastin. Sorry, y'all. I wanted to go, but then I looked at the funds and just realized it's not in there, besides a lot of other factors, so. It wouldn't have, if it was last year, it would have been fine. But, you just tell, you can just tell us that you hate us, Paul. We're only crying a little. It's not even that. Sorry, C Daddy. Like I said, I even have a ticket. Like, I bought a ticket, so I was planning on going until I did everything else. Tough, just you'll take my money anyways. What? Don't give me. Brent. Why are you giving me $50? Thank you, you generous bastard, but no. I just told you. I'm not gonna like ask people to fund me like those sorts of trips, because it's not something I want to do. Deepa, though, thank you for that membership as well. And Tyrus, thank you so much for that VIP. That wasn't a call for, like, please give me money, y'all. It was more of just a, like, It's just a bad nexus of shit that's going on. So. Did CR hit you with the restraining order? Here's the thing. Here's the thing that a lot of people don't realize is that, like, this is going to be blasphemy, but I didn't back Star Citizen because of Chris Roberts. Like, I'm glad people enjoy him, and I do love to hear him speak about Star Citizen because he's so passionate about it. But, like, at the end of the day, it's like, I tend to not back projects based off of personalities alone, or even, like, buy into games or movies or television shows because of a personality behind it. You give me lures, I give you monies. Thank you. You are dead to me. Yeah. Okay, so this is going to sound pretentious as shit, so I'm just going to say it anyways, because, like, why not? Video games are, so like, I come from the theater background. I have a minor in theater, and I always bring up that I attended the same theater program as, why am I blank? I had his name in my head and it just flew out. Nick, thank you so much for the $25. Anson Mount. Anson Mount and I went to the same college. He's older than I am. But he plays Captain Christopher Pike on Strange New Worlds, so it's like I always like to say I went to the same theater program as him. But there's a concept in theater called, I almost became a theater historian. I loved it so much. It's a concept in theater called collaborative art, in the sense that, like, a theater is similar to movies and television shows. It's like a small nation. Without every single person on that production doing what they do, nothing gets done. And people say, oh, well, what about the coffee getters and those sorts of things? Like, without those people running around giving food to people and getting water to people, like, shit, none of that shit gets done. Like, everyone needs to be firing at 100% efficiency to get things done. It is a miracle that any production, live production, movie or television or television show ever gets finished. And it's the same way with video games. Video games, to me, is very much the same concept, because without the QA, without the HR, without the community managers, you can have the best designers and programmers and modelers and artists that ever existed, but without that support staff, nothing gets done. Or doesn't get done with any kind of, like, functionality. It's a miracle that any video game exists at all. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, production assistants from Star Trek, yes. That explains so much you minored in theater. Yeah, I did. So when I say I didn't back for Christopher Roberts, I almost did the joke. What I didn't back for Chris Roberts is what I mean is that I didn't back because of him. I backed because the idea seemed good and the people behind it seemed like they were passionate about it. So. I'm a terrible actor. I've actually been an actor in plays before. I'm not good. I am a, how to put it? I'm an emergency actor. I'm the guy you call when your actor is actually backed out and you need someone at the 11th hour who has an idea of what has a concept of what acting is supposed to be. I'm the backup of the backup, yeah. when your main actor is in the hospital and your backup actor is somewhere in Vegas, but you can't get a hold of them, you call me. I'm much more of a behind the scenes. Even in theater, I was much more of a behind the scenes guy. I did a lot of prop work. It's actually how I met my wife. I was doing prop work. Prop organizer, writer. I did a little bit of lighting. I'm not great at lighting because I'm terrible at color theory. But the theater that I went to forced all of the different disciplines to know at least a little bit of every other discipline. So the actors took stagecraft, the lighting designers and the people took like stage design. The stage designers took acting lessons. So we all had to do everything of what the other ones do, so we get that. So. Oh, that sucks, Shingo. Yeah, no, I was lucky that the school that I went to for history also had a ridiculously good theater arts program. So it was fun. Yeah, I definitely learned it's to the point where I'm pretty sure I know several people who are on Broadway, and I wouldn't be surprised if I don't pay that much attention to theater or acting. So I wouldn't be surprised if several of the people I graduated with ended up in movies and television. They were very good, very good actors. I'm not going to say the school because I don't want to dox myself, because it's a very small school. It wouldn't be that difficult since I said I went to the same school as Anson Mount. But secondhand doxing. I kind of accidentally doxed myself by saying that, but it is a very small school. That's an old myth there, Fastcart. An old wives' tale. An old internet wives' tale. Oh no, I'm okay, y'all. I'm not saying I'm a terrible actor. I'm saying I don't care enough about acting to develop the skill to be a good actor. I know enough to be dangerous. I know enough to be a background actor. Or a dude who says 2 lines. Not good enough to be a voice actor or someone who's even a feature. I would never want to be the main player, the main character in a story or in any kind of production. That would fucking scare me. That's too much work. I have technically been acting since Bulkheads. I've actually been acting before that, but we'll move on to the next part, but what I'll say is I generally, in my experience with theater and other productions like that, my general thought is I'm not one who really enjoys acting, but I love to see them work. Seeing good actors work is fucking crack to me. That's amazing. Because, when an actor puts in work and you can see the transformation they do, you can see the effort they do. Because what a lot of people don't realize is that acting is fucking pain. It was oh, you're just pretending in front of a stage. It's yeah, if you're bad, the good actors will do crazy shit for their craft. And because they're insane, they pretend to be other people for a living. And to see good actors, especially because I put on I had a play produced when I was in college, my own kind of one act. Yeah, it was a one act play. It was okay. It wasn't great. Wasn't my best work, but you know, hey, I get to say that. And to watch the actors who were doing the lines that I wrote for the play that I wrote was fantastic. It was amazing to watch them kind of bring it to life. So. Who are my favorite actors to watch? I mean, I haven't seen a lot of acting on stage in the same way that I used to when I was there, but right now, Brian Cox is a good one. He's a good working actor. I'm gonna pull up some of the other shows I've watched. Jack Quaid is another great one. Well, he's starting to get more recognition because he did the starring role in Succession, but he's a great underserved actor. Been around forever.
You can take away my spaceship. You can take away my space suit. You can even take away my space lasers. But you can never, ever take away my space game.
Sherry Katsune just resubscribed for 14 months. Pub cheers, good day, Paul and chat.
Thank you so much, Shiori Kitsune. You are a very important pub, a very impressive person, very pedestrian. You rock. Shots and cheers in chat, y'all. Shots and cheers. No, I just forgot to turn off the other exterior stuff. So, writing plays is kind of fun. Writing in general is something I've been getting back into, and I took this. It took this. This summer to make me remind me of that. So, I'm trying to think of who else. I mean, speaking of Jack Quaid, Carl Urban is a great one, but he's one of those that's just kind of in the background as a good one. I do like Anson Mount. I think it's a cop out to say Anson Mount, but he's done a lot better than he used to. So. And I'm definitely interested in Jack Houston, because Jack Houston is playing my favorite character of all time in Squadron 42. It's Cal Mason. So I definitely have to watch more of his stuff, because he's playing my favorite character. So yes, I can breathe that above the helmet. Acting takes a lot of imaginative emotions to make it believable. I'm going to tell you that something that's probably wrong, but the way I remembered it and from my own instruction was that acting, it's not so much acting is pretending you're somebody else, but pretending like you're not somebody else, but more like acting is like assuming one aspect of your own personality. So an actor will, because you can never do something you don't experience. But if you know the character you're supposed to play is a specific role or specific thing, you try to remember a time period when you felt the way that that character should feel, and then try to develop the character based off of that. So it's more like meditation than anything. There's an echo, you hear a double sync beat. You shouldn't. I'm not gonna fuck with it though. Y'all can say it all the time, but I have no idea what's going on because the audio is all screwed up on my end. But thank you so much for that raid there, Silva. Might just be a Twitch alert thing. Here's a good question. Why do movie stars of today not seem to have the same star power, or should I say stage presence, like the older films? Because there's more of them. This is a factor that I think a lot of people don't realize when it comes to content, and it's one of the reasons why, or it comes to like entertainment. 40 years ago, there were 2, maybe 3 forms of entertainment if you were lucky, which was let's just say generous in 5 forms of entertainment. You had kind of the radio and like radio and music, 2 separate things, but they can be the same. Television, movies, and live stage plays. Right, that's generally what you had in like the 80s. With the rise of the internet became an entertainment source. And the internet itself spawned multiple different versions of entertainment, as well as things like the HBO, like home box office stuff, things like DVDs and VHSs helped. And as a result, today, and then video games came around. So today, there are far many sources of entertainment than there have ever been before. And, hey, Victoria. And because of that, there needs to be more talent, more people doing those things, because especially like lower forms of entertainment, like video games, they need to have people who will voice act and do and write and those sorts of things. And because they're not premier, they can't afford to pay premier actors and writers to be in there. So as a result, you have the rise of several different versions, different styles of actors, and like entertainment in general. So you think, oh well, we have these stage presence, these people who had massive stage presence. It's like because they were literally the only actors. Like there were very few people. It was very difficult to break into the industry, which is why a lot of people did stage plays. But most people don't watch stage plays. They don't go to Broadway and stuff like that. So the people who you saw star in like movies in the 50s and 60s and 70s and 80s, like they had a captive audience, and because they had marketability, it became easier to promote them. So that's why they felt like they had more presence. But today, someone can make it big on YouTube. You know, people who have just YouTube presence can produce their own animations, their own television shows, and have them produced either on YouTube or even on other big streaming services. So there's a much more glut. So you're seeing more people who have more varied skills at more different points of their lives than you would have ever seen in the 80s on like active, like with more audiences. What'd you think of the Anna's appearance on SCL? Which one? Was she on the last one? I've been in deep depression mode there, Fastguard, so I don't know. I mean, this itself, like, I'm not an actor, but I'm taking up your attention. If you're listening to this at work, you're listening to this at work instead of listening to music, or having other ways to kind of drown out the background. And that's means that, like, you're putting me up on the same, like, I'm competing for the same attention that professional musicians used to have. And even then, there are so many musicians out there now who are self-published or self-produced and are able to produce music and put it out there for free or for cheap, that they're competing with professional musicians. So I think it's because once upon a time, actors, we went to see Arnold Willis, etc. Now characters are popular, and we're going to see Spider-Man, Optimus Prime, Batman, Harry Potter. I still think there's actors. Like, there's people will go see a Tom Cruise film because it's Tom Cruise. Like, hands down. I know people will watch TV shows or movies because Henry Cavill's in it because people are big Henry Cavill fans. They know what he's doing. But I don't think you still see nearly as much of that as you used to. Yeah, Fastcart. When did Anna show up on SCL? Are you talking about the old version? I love Anna. Anna's a Anna, don't kill me if you watch this. But Anna's a working actor. She fucking works, and you can tell that because she's in more shit than I've seen most actors, like professional actors, do stuff in a year. She's in so many goddamn video games. And I know she's done actual television shows before, and she's done movies, I think, and a lot of commercials, I think, as well. But like, when she finds a job, she does it. and I'm like, that, hats off. That's a fuck lot of work for you to do. Thank you, Anna. That's impressive. All right. And Anna's a great example. Again, don't kill me, Anna. I don't think Anna is the best actress who's ever lived of our time. She's a good actor. She gets the job done. She knows what she's doing. She's good at directing, at being directed. She has her own, pool of information and experience. Fantastic actor. But no one's going to say Anna for Academy Award, right? Again, please don't kill me, Anna. But she's good. And that's an example of someone says, whoever said like, well, we don't have stage presence. It's like, no, but you don't need that kind of presence because that presence doesn't need to be, you don't need to have shows and movies like that all the time in order to bring people into the theaters. Sometimes it can just be a video game where you're playing a character who's specifically there for one mission. Shots fired. Yeah. Someone's going to clip that out of context and send it to her. Oh, we're just talking about acting. I don't know how we got into the topic other than the fact that I joked that I don't know. How did we get on that topic? Anyways, let's get on to the actual Star Citizen stuff then, since we've been talking about not Star Citizen for half an hour. Oh, on this topic, I recently discovered Delta Flyers podcast with Garrett Wang and Robert Duncan McNeil. Oh, that's great. Rewatching Voyager episodes, just talking about it and what they remember. Really enjoying the insight. Yeah, I've heard bad stuff about Voyager's set, and I know that what's her name? The actress who played Janeway, Catherine Mulgrew, Kate Mulgrew. She was in a dark place when she did that show, and I know they've tried to redo that, kind of fix that up a little bit more. But yeah, Kate Mulgrew, yeah. Clipped and edited, ready to start a war. How dare I? Yeah, I love Anna too. And the context that will never get clipped out, which is like, it was in the context of why don't we see people who have these incredible star power like we do in the 80s? And the answer is because there's more work for actual actors. And for me, for instance, that's a lot more cool. That's a lot more interesting. It's a lot better to have more Annas who can earn a living doing what they love than a handful of actors who are in every single movie. Like, that's cooler as shit to me, because that means we get to see more ranges of experiences. What's my concierge level? I don't fucking know. Too high. For context for y'all, if you buy anything on the store, it adds to your total amount spent. So about 95% of the stuff that I've purchased for Star Citizen was purchased for giveaways. So I'm at like $30,000 to $40,000 in, and again, probably 38,000 of that is just from giveaways over the course of 7 years. So you've clipped me. Yeah, you're all gonna send it to fucking Anna now. Real question, Paul, are you playing BG3? I'm not, because I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. So, but I will eventually. I have to agree. Yeah. Now we need awards. We called them the Pubby, and this year's Pubby Award goes to. I'm excited for all of the redacted chips. All right. I don't know why it's not showing me descriptions. There we go. Yeah. It's like I said, it's not something that I'm like, oh, I love getting so high of the concierge. Like, that doesn't really care. To me, that doesn't really matter. Because a lot of that, again, is business expense. I bought it so I could do giveaways, so I can promote the channel. So it's all part of the process. It's just that CIG tracks it. All right, here we go.
It's been a long time since I've been in front of a camera, so this is a new experience for me. Fresh one. But yeah, I'm enjoying it.
Who's going to do better, you or Graham?
Graham, he's an old hat. He knows what he's doing.
Oh, hi. Didn't notice you there. So today we're talking about resonance within the Claudius tool. What's Claudius? Tough question.
Yes, we get the 2 boys from Claudius. For those of you who don't know, the Claudius was the tool that everyone memed and dunked on. Was it last year or 2 years ago for CitizenCon when they first announced it? Because they were super fucking enthusiastic about it, and everyone's like, "It's an audio tool, my dude." But these two are great. I love them. I love them. Does concierge matter? It kind of does. Was that last week? See that? That was 5 months ago. I remember that one. Yeah, I like watching her do that one.
Okay. Claudius is our new audio tool that brings together all the different audio functions into one place so that the sound designers can access everything they need
without going through.
Delicious tools. I love delicious tools. None of you cowards will clip me out of context there.
Needless code requests all the time. My favorite thing about Claudius is the fact that I won't have to jump into so many different tools and programs to get in-game and get the sound sounding the way that I want them to and the way that I envision them in my head.
We did a whole thing on it at CitizenCon a few years ago. You should go watch it. I'll just wait.
You should. It is probably the weirdest presentation I've seen at CitizenCon since they did an entire presentation on Spectrum.
More natural on that camera when I'm not looking at the top.
One of the ways in which we're looking to improve the audio experience of Star Citizen is to find ways to better meet the player's expectations of what is being heard in the game world. We already create the sounds that you would expect for objects and interactions in the game and glue them together with reverb and effects, but we can always go further.
Our latest piece of tech within the Claudius editor is resonance, which allows us to take a game event that is either loud or particularly high sound pressure and make other elements of the game respond in much the same way as you would expect in the real world.
Resonance, put simply, is the sensitivity of objects to vibration, and in terms of our tech, it's the sound that they make as a result. We're aiming to fill a gap that currently exists with certain things not dynamically responding, at least in an audible sense, to player input and events transpiring in the world. We want to add another layer to the soundscape that just sprinkles a little more life into it and makes it just that little bit more real. You're there, you're experiencing it.
Our new tech allows us to quickly create resonances around points in the world in response to game events. that can then be reflected by the objects and geometry around those points. We can add a resonance driver node in Claudius and set the size of its sphere of influence and also how long it takes to decay to nothing. We can then add resonator nodes to any audio object that we see fit. When the resonator is caught in the sphere of influence of the driver during gameplay, we use the resulting output to decide how loudly the object should resonate. What we're saying is we're taking game events in the world and we're trying to make the world around you respond in a much more realistic way to what you're doing. So if you're firing away...
More vibrations. He's trying to give us all good vibes, chat. He's giving us good vibes.
Weapon next to a window, you'd expect it to go or something like that, you know, a metal panel, sheet panel, that kind of thing. We can also set frequencies for both the driver and the resonator and make them respond only if the driver hits the resonant frequency of the resonator. So basically, if the frequency of a driver is changing, it might hit a certain frequency that excites an object much more than it does at other frequencies. Even with a simple example, there's already a greater sense of cause and effect. The props around you feel connected to your actions, and you feel more immersed as a result.
Yeah, so meet my expectations with good sound design. Audio design is one of the places where Star Citizen always leaves me meh. Yeah, I will agree with that. There's not shitting on the audio designers, but it feels like there's a lot of placeholder that they need to kind of work out and massage. Then again, it's also an alpha product, and I imagine that a lot of that stuff, the more detailed sounds and the and stuff like that has to come in with more beta work when they've got, you know, they have the material set. They're not changing materials every 6 weeks or whatever. But like the walking, like what they're hearing right now is this. Hold on, let me. That sounds almost exactly the same as walking on metal bits on Lorville. Like it just doesn't sound right. Like it sounds like you're bouncing on like a weird grate, not like hitting metal. Feels very flimsy rather than being any kind of thump. I like that. You didn't get, I think what we picked up there is when it was fired, it fired so the sound bounced off the walls and back to your ears. So you're instead of hearing just the shot, you're also hearing the shot reverberating back to you. So it's like that.
This being implemented via Claudius in the straightforward visual logic-based scripting way means that getting your sounds in-game and working is just that much quicker. There are so many interweaving systems at play on the engine side that it usually can prove a challenge to get the desired outcome. Just from the resonator and resonance nodes alone, we can manage quick tweaks to dial in the exact kind of sounds we're wanting. And we're having it happen live and in context as we go.
Claudius's design philosophy is to put workflow first. And with this in mind, the resonance tech makes it easy to take a location or ship and populate it with the kind of responses you hear happening around you in real life. The potential here is large, so having a tool that makes it easy becomes incredibly important.
The underlying tech is designed to give the designers everything they need to implement. We're not relying on repeated code support requests to get this kind of dynamism in for our sounds. No one knows what you need to achieve the result you're aiming for in your head better than yourself. And that can take time and iteration, but here we have all the tools to do that by ourselves.
So now we can take a location, look around it, and think about what we'd expect to hear when, for example, a weapon is fired, and quickly add the markup to the game to make it do what we expect. Here we can see a few candidates: metal locker doors, a waste bin, empty cans, some windows, containers. By adding audio components to these objects or adding audio entities to the world markup, we can
stop leaning on the alpha excuse. We have shiny graphics. We should have shiny audio. We don't really have shiny graphics. We have a lot of placeholder graphics. There's a lot of shit they got to do through a lot of that stuff, though. They can get it right the first time. They don't get it right the first time, though. And it's a lot more complicated than make thing look good. It's a lot like a lot of the reasons why the graphics happen the way they do is because they build out libraries, asset libraries, and they kind of populate everything with these asset libraries. There's a lot of copy pasting that you just may not notice. And audio is the same way. The audio is just copy pasting until they can really get in and find deals, that kind of stuff. So
can easily create their resonant responses.
Adding these resonances brings variety and realism to the soundscape.
Oh, you can hear it's getting shot. Yeah, the item's getting shot. Yeah. It's such a weird, weak sound, though.
So we're no longer just hearing weapons and reverb, we're now hearing the objects and materials around the player too. We can use the tech to support visual physical movements or even to imply them using audio alone. We can listen to the resonances in isolation to understand what's being added here.
I mean, Arclight's supposed to sound kind of puny. Fuck is that sound? Sorry, I don't mean to shit on them too much, but this is very placeholder.
This system is hooked into our propagation tech, which
and I also get that it's more about the tool than it is anything else.
Allows sounds to respect paths through rooms and doorways to reach the listener, normally the player. But in this case, rather than ensuring that what you hear respects the propagation paths within the world, we use the system to decide whether, for example, a resonance driver in one room should excite a resonator in another. So basically, if someone fires a weapon within a room, the objects in that room will vibrate differently to any objects that are outside that room.
As with all tech, we have things to consider from a design perspective. There isn't going to be a one-size-fits-all system. Take, for example, you're in a ship. You might want to let the players experience a huge impact from a missile. It's a given you'd expect the ship and its internal contents to resonate when that happens, and this is perfect for that. But what about continuous resonances in a ship? We may want to use the system much more sparingly in these cases in order to avoid fatigue and focus more on the transient resonances as they convey more important information to the player. Much like a computer, the system needs rules to govern its output, so design needs to inform the system how it should be behaving. Resonance can become more of an event to convey excitement and useful information. It should serve the experience and could help make scenes pop from an audio perspective.
This is no resonance. That's better. You can hear the actual shaking.
While we have the option of using propagation to ensure that resonances don't travel through walls or geometry, we can see that there are cases where we may want it to do just that. A ship receiving an impact from a huge missile would have vibrations resonating through its structure, which in turn would resonate its contents. By vibrating the ship and the objects around the player, the impact becomes much more visceral and feels like a direct threat to the player, rather than an event that just happened to some other part of the ship. The player's experience of the impact can then be more reflective of the damage done to their ship.
Weird cut right there, but yeah.
So this is cool because if you have a huge impact that's hitting your ship, yeah, if you're in the cockpit, you can see the impact, you can really feel it there. But if you're down in the guts of the ship in an engineering role or something like that, and impacts are happening on the ship, you're maybe not going to feel it so much. So what this system does is it brings the whole experience of the ship being hit to wherever you are.
Resonance also sits nicely alongside our physical audio system, which handles the audio for the physicalization of props and objects in the world. You can already hear audible actions in the game, such as objects being thrown, rolled, handled, or impacted. This adds another layer to that physicality, though with Resonance, it doesn't need to be beholden to the physics of an object.
Claudius and its underlying engine, SIG Audio, have been designed with rapid
SIG
feature
Audio.
development at their core. Now that a lot of the hard work under the hood has been done, we're able to quickly develop and iterate on features such as Resonance that allow us to improve the experience of Star Citizen and enhance immersion to create a living, breathing world.
As with all Claudius features, this is available to any object in any context, so its use doesn't even have to be limited to what we've shown here. For example, we could use the blast radius of an explosion to drive the player's ear-ringing effect using the same system.
Yes!
Or we could affect mix changes within the radius of an event, such as a large explosion, ducking the other sounds around it to make even more room for impact. The tools are developed with creative freedom in mind and ultimately encourage experimentation.
So usually the graphics and the visuals get all the headlines, but to us, the audio is equally, if not more, important. And we hope that you'll feel the same when all this work comes online.
How'd I do?
Good!
Thank you.
So, what did we learn this week? Well, we learned that Claudius and its procedural audio tools allow for the systemic propagation of sounds in ships, stations, and space above and beyond. And that reverberations don't just mean the events around you sounding and feeling as they should, they can also lead to tactical and gameplay implications for combat, wear and tear, and much, much more. Now, don't forget that Ship Showdown is heading into the top 16 in just the next few days, and of course, the Mission Spotlight is still underway. And then, of course, we're only 9 weeks away. 9 weeks away. 9 weeks away from CitizenCon 2953, the now 2-day event at the Los Angeles Convention Center, and tickets are still available. For Inside Star Citizen, I'm Jared Huckabee. Thanks for letting us share the process of game development with you, and we'll see you all here next week.
That's about right. I'm looking through some of the comments to see if anyone, because like the tech is great. A lot of that audio sounded garbage though. Propagation to another room. What happened to Raycast sounds exactly? I don't know. Seriously though, I love I love this episode. I'm okay with it. It's a pre-CitizenCon episode, so basically we're getting the stuff that's just not going to make it to CitizenCon, so it's anything they can grab. Which is not bad, but it's not good. it's not meaty. Resident stuff looks like a great immersive factor. I look forward to when they dial it in. Wow, this is a level of detail that separates Star Citizen's games. It's revolutionary. No one's doing this. Can I please get my immersion in? I know what you're saying. I know what you're doing. Yeah, it's just one of those things where like I get what they're doing, but it's like it's worse because sometimes CIG sound design is actually good. Like I remember a lot of design that went into the ship flybys for like 3.0 and those sorts of things, and it was like used to be really good, but like their guns feel very anemic. Like they sound very anemic. There's not really a lot of there's not a lot of like dial in with some of the stuff they have. I will say like the mining laser and the ships, the hole stripping lasers, a lot of like the consistent laser beam sound really good. Ostentatious one. I don't know what you're talking about when it comes to to like ray casting. They still use ray casting. It's just, I don't know if they're using audio ray casting. I don't remember the term audio ray casting. I could be wrong with that one though. Bathe in that hopium. It's just not something I tend to look at a lot. I'm gonna be a little bit of a contrarian there, Luna. I think Elite Dangerous had some pretty solid design, but they didn't have a lot of differentiation. Like most of the ships sounded the same. There wasn't much of a differences between them. And some of their stuff is a little bit more ad hoc. It feels like thrown in just because, rather than having a lot of like purpose to it. It's not bad. Better than Star Citizen in many ways, but I wouldn't say it's like fantastic. But it ends up like a lot of Elite, where it feels very samey because it's very samey. And they're going to find out 30 seconds later that I said and they get angry. All right. So, we're going to get into the Squadron 42 stuff at some point, but I kind of want to give it a little bit more. I'm going to kind of go through... I'm going to be quite honest that right now, the Star Citizen... the biggest problem that Star Citizen has, in my opinion, is that it's just... the salt is too much. Like, it feels like every single thing that comes out is about how this or that is fucked up and all these other things are happening. And, you know, I get everyone's like, well, I want to make sure that my concerns are heard, but it's like, yeah, but it feels like that's all it is. And it's not even like CIG is doing something wrong or something like that. It's more about like, it feels like it's hard for me to care when like the main feature every week is just stuff that isn't the game. I haven't heard the stuff, the Thargoids, so I didn't really hear much differences between the manufacturers there, Brent. Evening, Paul. Evening, all. I'm surviving off the theory everything they talk about IC is something we won't hear about as much in CitizenCon. I don't know how they do a 2-day CitizenCon without that being the case. Yeah, we're also in the, so a couple of things have happened. One, we're in the great drought. So until we get 320 out or CitizenCon happens, it's just not a lot to talk about. And the closer we're getting to CitizenCon, we're 9 weeks away from CitizenCon. I don't know if we're going to see 320 out anytime soon. I think it'll be released at CitizenCon would be the idea. It's not the great one. We're just a great drought. Do you think we'll get that manufacturing ship at CitizenCon? I don't know. It's hard to tell. I don't think we'll see it at CitizenCon. I think the earliest we'd see that would be IAE, but why the suspense? Was it just me? What do you mean, mystery? I know it's not Star related, but since I love your content, did you have any advice on how to get back into creating things? Just in general, Hourglass? Schedule it. You just gotta schedule it. You just gotta pencil it in. You gotta make sure that the people around you know that you're doing it. You have to make it a priority. And you know, find out when you're the most creative or the most excited to do stuff. Like, for instance, it's hard for me, because the Star Citizen community is in such a place and because the game is in such a place, it's hard for me to like really do any kind of Star Citizen lore stuff, because it's like, I know that it's not going to feel good for me. It doesn't entertain me or engage me. And I know it's not going to entertain and engage a lot of people. I'll do part 4 of the complete history of Star Citizen lore, and I'll feel like I'm glad I got it done rather than I'm proud of it, which is not a feeling I want to have about something I'm going to put a lot of hours into, and I'm paying, you know, a lot of money to help be created. So it's like, Mac's not talking about the Pioneer, he's talking about the MCV. It says it in the, John Easterling says they already confirmed repair contracts. I can't believe they expect me to use the multi-tool exclusively. It's what it says in the tag, or in the what is it called? Little box. Yeah. The Argo MCV, the mobile construction vehicle. It was the music? Okay. Yeah, that's just basically where I am with that stuff. I really, really want to do more content because I'm feeling creative. I want to do things, but it's hard for me to sit here and justify doing it for Star Citizen when it's like Armored Core 6 is coming out. I want to play that. Starfield is coming out September 1st, which is like 2 weeks away. Like, why else? Why? What else am I gonna do? Like, and I like Star Citizen. I like doing Star Citizen content. It's just really hard when CIG seems to just be not wanting to advance the game. Holy shit, so much is coming out. Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that's coming out in the next 3 weeks. let alone, I haven't played Jet Set Radio. I've heard it's good though. Just do it, Hourglass. I mean, like, there's no point in not doing it. Just do it. Hey, Dibs. I don't think Star Citizen's make or break. I think I'm just in a bad headspace with Star Citizen right now. I recognize that Star Citizen isn't in any kind of unique position that it hasn't been in the past. I'm just in a unique position where it's hard for me to, like, drag my feet because it's hard for me to get excited about the game right now. Nice. I didn't know that some indie studio is releasing a successor to Jet Set Radio tomorrow. And it's not like the game has been in like a bad position. It's actually better than it's been in the last year. It just feels like treading water compared to movement. It feels like Star Citizen fatigue. It's just frustrating fatigue. I've been at it for years. It feels like it's just walking through development. Yeah, the problem is that CIG is also still trying to drum up engagement and an excitement, but there's just not a lot of engagement or excitement to be had right now because everything they're doing, like, let's look through 320 right now. Let's look through what they're working on 320. The big thing is the whole sea, with maybe some economy stuff changing, and Arena Commander. Now, are Arena Commander changes good? Yeah, they're cool. I'd love to see a more vibrant Arena Commander community. Am I going to play a lot more Arena Commander? Probably not. It's just not my vibe. I might get into it at some point, but are there other people who are really into it? For sure. But it's really hard to kind of hype that up as a major selling point of jumping back in the game. And, you know, you've got other things in there. What do we have? That doesn't help that 320 means another wipe. Yeah, I don't really care about wipes. It's never been an issue for me. Like, I can play a game and I'm one of those people who will play like a game like RimWorld or Civilization and get to a point where I'm stopping and save the game and never return back to that saved game. Just because I'll just play it for a session and be done with it. I don't care as much. It's more about the enjoyment of playing the game. So for me, at least, it's just like, eh. But I get why some people would be like, if I can't continue my progression, I want to do that. So. They're not going to do anything into the economy until they actually have a good working economy. And this is okay. This is salty Paul coming up. The problem is that it feels like CIG is fighting fires rather than building homes. They're not building a structure. It feels like they're trying to, or they're building a structure while fighting fires at the same time. And that fighting of the fires becomes more important than building of the home. So whenever they build something, it partially gets burnt and then has to be rebuilt the next in 3 months. And, you know, after 3 years, that whole wall is done. But what would normally have taken, you know, somebody, 6 months to build is now taken 4 times that. And it feels like, okay, so we've got a wall now. There's still 3 others that we got to build. And that's what it feels like. That, like, because I know a lot of people say, oh, like 2 steps forward, 1 step back. And it's like, that's not even that case. It's not really moving backwards. It's like they're moving forwards. It's just their shoes are falling apart as they're moving. And like when it comes to the economy, for instance, We just see them a bunch of stuff added to the progress tracker for them to actually fix up the economy and make a huge changes in the economy, which I'm sure they'll do, but we don't know when that's going to be done. That could be 2 years from now. And then it'll take them 2 to 3 years to dial it in to a point where people will be okay playing with it and having some enjoyment. Like, it's hard for me to sit here and go, yes, CIG is going to advance development when we're on the 4th year of Road to Pyro. Like, we had Pyro, like, you showed Pyro off the four times, you know, already 4 times for every year at CitizenCon. Like, I'm tired of it. Everyone's tired of it. Just fucking release it. But they can't because they have to get the fundamental technologies in. And every time they added fundamental technology, it takes them 6 months to a year to make sure it's not on fire. So it's really hard to get invested in like progress tracker updates when you sit there and can kind of internalize this could be 2 years from now before we even see this, and it could still be broken when it releases. And that's the reason why it's hard. It's hard to kind of get really invested in it because it's just like, why? Why? And the answer of it's hard to make is true. Video games are hard to make. But, you know, lots of things are hard to make. I get it, C-Daddy. And it's not really like me sitting there and being like the people who are working on this are incompetent. It feels like, what the fuck is going on? You know, it feels like there's minimal movement on anything other than, you know, we're building new missions. And it's not even like missions that people really wanted. It's new ideas that they have because they have the technology to be able to put it out there. And it still feels, because it's built on broken ass AI and ass backwards content, which was built 3 years ago by a developer who doesn't even work for CIG anymore. And no one knows how to fucking fix that mess of spaghetti code. So you have to build a new tool just to fix the problems to be able to make the current technologies function better. But by doing that, they're not building anything new. It feels like a hamster wheel in some cases. And I'm sure this is just a matter of it's a drought right now, and we're between 2 major technology pushes that they're trying to do. There's other things going on. I'm already dealing with grieving over a pet. I'm stressed because of work. There's lots of other factors from my head. But I know I'm not the only one who feels that way. The excuses for CIG gotta go. I'm not going to sit here and say that CIG is perfect, but I'm also not going to sit here and say that CIG is deliberately delaying the game so that they can make more money. I'm also not going to sit here and say CIG is incompetent because I don't fucking know how to do this shit. And there is many people in the I know who work in the video games industry who say CIG is doing insane level shit that no one would ever try, and it's super. They love to work there, or they love what they're doing. As many as people saying that it's incompetence. They don't know what they're doing. They're running it into the ground. Like I've heard it from professionals of all stripes, which tells me that no one fucking knows what's going on, and no one really has an understanding outside of CIG themselves. And CIG ain't gonna say shit. So. Like, the term mismanagement gets thrown around a lot, but like, I feel like I don't even know where people are getting a lot of those ideas from. And I'm sure there are legitimate, like, hey, this should have been done 6 months ago. But no one really knows that unless you actually see what's going on behind the scenes. And CIG is so reticent to share that information because nobody shares that information in the industry, that it's hard to really tell. You know, it could be a single mistake. It could be a coding error. It could be they developed everything and then they did a fucking, what was it? iCache situation where they built all of this stuff and it just didn't work. And so they have to go back to scratch and work on it again. So it's hard to tell those sorts of situations because that's not necessarily a mismanagement or anything else like that. That's just, it didn't work. They they tried to work on a product. They got to the point where they thought it could work and it didn't work. It just didn't work. That's what R&D does. Hey, Nightcub. So that's just me to say that I have a complicated relationship with Star Citizen, and it is not sour. It's more of a, it's hard for me to get excited. That's what I'm saying right there. I'm not hostile. I'm just tired, boss. I'm just tired. I'll be glad when it marches forward to Pyro and kind of get at all that. But yeah, I mean, I said that a month ago. I'm experiencing Star Citizen burnout, and it has a lot to do with just, it's hard to follow. I know a lot of people trump on marketing, but I don't think marketing is to blame for a lot of this stuff. Maybe that's just me trying to defend my marketing peeps. But the reality is that CIG doesn't do a lot of marketing. And I also know enough, because I know enough people who work in community who were friends of mine before they worked in community, and a number of people who work at CIG who were friends of mine before they worked at CIG, to know that they just don't have enough people working in community. They need like 3 more people in the community team. The amount of stuff the average community manager does at CIG is insane. It's like they're juggling 4 things at once while trying to also deal with other issues that pop up and explode. Like there's nobody paying attention to the YouTube side of Star Citizen. Like, they don't even have a content creator manager. I think Ulf is technically the person who's supposed to deal with that. But Ulf is also, like, the German community manager and doing other things as well. Like, they're being told to do 7 different things at once. And most companies would just hire an outside company to help deal with this, which, you know, includes a huge amount of built-in support staff with maybe, like, 1 community manager who's like the liaison between that company and the main company, like, or between that company and the contractors. So, like, I don't know what community could do better other than hire more people. No, I mean, what I mean is, like, YouTube in the sense that, like, I don't think anyone at CIG community is actually watching Star Citizen YouTube channels other than the ones that streamers talk about or that are streamers. They focus much more on Twitch because it's what they know. But, like, there are channels that are bigger than some of the big ones that we think are big, that have tons of views, that get lots of traction, that the community in my sphere of community, like here on like Twitch and, you know, this part of YouTube, don't even know about, that have hundreds of thousands of views in some cases. It's just not in the ballpark. And I think that's the reason why is because it's hard to really monitor YouTube and track YouTube trends unless you understand how YouTube works. I don't think anyone at CIG knows how YouTube works. Or if they do, they don't have enough time to spend the time to track what they need to because they're doing so many other things. There's a bunch of streamers only on YouTube who are completely forgotten by CIG. Yeah. Since you're letting some salt out on the meat, what's your opinion on the rules issue going on with ramming and AZs? What's a rule? What rule issues? Yeah, every single CitizenCon since I back in 2020 has been talking about the road to Pyro in some form. It's been 3 years. It's been 4 years. Every single CitizenCon from 2019 has been focused on Pyro, and we're still way a ways away. Jared just talked about YouTube metrics on Soul Citizen shows. YouTube metrics in terms of Star Citizen's YouTube, right? And it's not Jared's job to track YouTube trends for Star Citizen because he's the media manager. It's more of a community job. What I mean is CIG doesn't engage with the YouTube side of Star Citizen community, which could do them a lot of good because they could also track what YouTubers are saying and understand more about, take the temperatures of the YouTube communities, because that's probably much more relevant and prevalent to people than Twitch or Spectrum or Twitter, because the Spectrum and Twitch and Twitter side of things and the Reddit side of things is a tiny portion. I would imagine that I would venture to guess that Facebook and YouTube are the biggest communities for Star Citizen. Lobster Mac, I don't, that's not going to happen. Star Citizen doesn't make enough money with the number of devs they have to keep this a 20-year slow roll. They got 5 years, is my guess, based off of their current burn-through rate. They got to release something in the next 5 years, if not sooner. They have 1,400 employees, and they make $100 million a year at best. It's a lot of fucking people to pay for for that amount of money. Hey, Logan. How you doing, buddy? With the issues of the new whole ship being fixed, do you think we'll see the other whole ship shortly, or they'll be put in the back burner? Back burner. Definitely back burner. I don't think we're going to see the hulls for a while because they're just not important. They're going to get this Star Citizen or the Constellation Taurus treatment, where they're already out. There's no incentive to do the whole Bs, the Es or Ds, because there's no reason to. How are you? I've been salty. I've been salt dumping there, Loken, explaining why it's hard for me to like generate interest to do Star Citizen content because it's just I'm at a low point for that. I'm glad other things are coming out, but I also say that there's me and Space Tomato talked about this, which is like there's a weird hostility that Star Citizen superfans have with games like Starfield that I never understand. Like, I get not liking Starfield, like, you know, oh, I don't trust Bethesda, or it's not my kind of game. I'm not looking for a space RPG. I'm looking for more something Star Citizen. It's like, yeah, like, I'm not much of a Baldur's Gate fan. I never have been. I'm interested in seeing 3 because it looks much more like something akin to like Dragon Age in terms of like its perspective and how it works and, you know, other aspects to it, which is neat. But I'm not going to make content for it. What I've heard, it's the second coming of Jesus when it comes to RPG games, so that's great. But like, I'm not going to shit on it if it's not my thing. It's just there's so much like vitriol for Starfield, and I don't get it. I don't get it. It's like, it's fine. Kind of like ED fans hate Star Citizen, or No Man's Skies hate ED. People calling as Starfield the Star Citizen killer. Yeah, I don't get it. It's the other team. What's not to get? But it's not the other team. Like, I'm not on Team CIG. Like, CIG is not my friend. It's a corporation that's trying to make money. I just want to see Star Citizen come out. And I like space. I like space. And I'm down for some space, Bethesda space action, so. And I'm with you there, Rob. Or R Bob, happy R Bob. I think Star Citizens will actually act more like a gateway drug to Star Citizen. It will. It'll bring more people into the idea of sci-fi and space. There is a undercurrent in the gaming, in like nerd community of space shit. There's enough of us space nerds that are waiting for more sci-fi and space content to come out because we want it, because we're so tired of the 7,000th fantasy generator. But we have yet to have that like moment of like, aha, like what happened in the 70s with Star Wars, or in the 90s with Star Trek. Smaller degrees in the 90s TNG kind of boom, where like suddenly people, like corporations, realize there's money in science fiction, and suddenly pour money into the science fiction genre, and shows and movies and video games start coming out. It just doesn't feel like that. It feels like it's been a slow trickle because there's not been one game that's come out and it's been like, we're making $4 billion at launch to get people interested in it. I can explain. Everyone is aware of Star Citizen's shortcomings, and Starfield represents a drop in players. It scares people who haven't come to terms with Star Citizen's problems. Dune is okay, but Dune is a high concept, funky and weird sci-fi. I'm talking like Star Wars. Something that has just like a to the market. Something just boom, hits in there, massive disruption, shoots up a bunch of copycats instantly. A lot of people who had ideas in that same genre are suddenly taken seriously because now people realize they can make money, and then suddenly like more content gets put out. It's the reason why we had this explosion of science fiction content, like revivals of old science fiction shows like Buck Rogers and other stuff in the 70s and 80s, because there was a market for it. It's why fucking Star Trek got put back in there. So I'm gonna lurk. Thank you, Loken. I sent you a message, by the way, Loken. I don't know if you got it about the thing. It's hard. Not the John Carpenter's the thing. It's the thing Loke and I were talking about. Something I can't talk a lot about yet. I think it's something of a defense mechanism that Star Citizen's backers establish sometimes. They potentially face with a, hey, you see, you were silly for investing in that stupid space game that's nothing like this one. That's nothing like this better one, and people don't like feeling that way regardless of fallacy behind the comparison. I would say that I think sci-fi has lost its luster over the last 20 years. I'd almost guarantee to guess, and then this probably has a lot to do with things like EverQuest and WoW, but fantasy probably has way outsold, and modern warfare games, like modern combat games set in modern day, or even just like first-person shooters that have no sci-fi elements. They've probably way outsold any kind of science fiction game. And that's with things like Doom existing, and Halo. Just because, like, there's more of a market. There's a reason why there are a billion fantasy MMOs, and there's like 4 space or science fiction settings. So I think sci-fi has mass appeal beyond just dudes. It's just sci-fi is terrible. Sci-fi writers are terrible at writing women. There's plenty of good science fiction, you know, like women who write science fiction novels or women who are interested in science fiction. It's just that dudes are bad at gatekeeping science fiction stuff. The Resonance videos, nah, it's mostly harmless. Yeah, fantasy will get your attention because people recognize fantasy. I think I talked about this earlier. It's like fantasy is almost a cheat code for writing because there are enough tropes in fantasy that people already accept and are willing to do. Like, people know what a sword is. People know what magic should look like. People have an idea of what a dragon is or a unicorn. You know, like there are what a knight is or what a castle is. Like, these are all very easy. What an elf is, a dwarf, a halfling, or a hobbit, or you know, the various like fantasy races that exist. It's just almost, you can just drop them in and you don't even have to describe them other than the word elf and people know exactly what you're talking about. You don't really have that with science fiction. I know what a white knight is. His name is Cupid. I mean, sorry, Paul. I mean... Oh, no, sci-fi community is very bad at gatekeeping. I feel it. I've played mostly Star Citizen this year, read 30 fantasy and 0 sci-fi novels. Well, it's also that, like, generally speaking, science fiction novels are dominated by really weird people. Like, Orson Scott Card is a weird dude. I like Robert Heinlein's novels, but Heinlein was a fucking weird dude. Like, the only sane person who I've ever read a science fiction novel with was probably Arthur C. Clarke. And he probably had some weird kink that he slipped in at some point in his thing. There's a lot of kinks in science fiction novels, and no shame on that, but it's like, not nearly as many in fantasy that I can get away with, so. Just look at the Star Trek community's response to the last few shows. To be honest, I'm kind of burned out on fantasy, overwhelmed with it. It's everywhere in gaming. It's a chief reason why I'm not interested. Why I'm interested in Starfield. It's an RPG that's not a fantasy saga. Yeah. Thank you, Dibley. I don't know. So like, there's an uphill battle for science fiction in many ways. So, which is sad. But at the same time, this is a long way of saying I think Starfield will actually help out Star Citizen, and I'll always be confused by the people who like must Star Citizen must be better. It's like, It's not trying to be the same thing, y'all. It's fine. And if you don't like Starfield, just don't play it. Don't focus on it. It's so easy to just, like, not worry. Fucking Scots. They ruined Scotland. Yes, yes, Hourglass Mage. I'm saying that. I'm saying the worst thing about the Scotland is the Scots. The worst thing about sci-fi are the fans. All right, I'll be right back. I'm gonna make sure that your favorite trolling tool is on. It should be on. I'll be right back. I gotta use the restroom. Oh. I do love 40K.
Weapons free, y'all. Good news, everyone.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
2 words. Distress bacon.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Distress bacon.
Weapons free, y'all. Good news, everyone.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
Yeah, I'm back. Right, Niven. I forgot about Niven. I love Ringworld. Ringworld. I might play science fiction. I'm definitely waiting to see Starfield. Let's definitely see how it drops. Man, yeah, that pissed me off. Frickin' the Halo TV show is just, it's disappointing. Oh, it's the Expanse game, which is the Telltale game. I'm looking. Yeah, I wanted to play that at some point, but then the whole my cat died thing happened. So, like, I wasn't into No Man's Sky, but Happy is out there for people to enjoy. Same with Starfield. The Twisted Metal had the right idea, which is let's get the feel of the universe right. The feel of the games, and then just make shit up. You know? Like, you could never really make a Doom game, because Doom doesn't have a plot that makes sense, or a Doom TV show or movie, because a Doom doesn't have a plot that makes sense. But you could definitely do a story in the Doom universe. Thank you, Jade. Yeah, the Doom movie was terrible. It was a zombie movie for some reason. It was Resident Evil, yeah. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna happen. There's Bad Little Space Girl. Bro, CIG just needs to let ChatGPT put the rest of the game together. What I think would be a fantastic, and this is going to sound heretical, but I think the science fiction video game that would make the best a TV series, is Mass Effect, but not for the reason most people think. It's not because of its engrossing story or character development or anything like that, because Mass Effect I could see done as a cop show. Done because it's inspired by 24. That was its original kind of story element design, was more of a kind of basing it off of that sort of Commander Shepard is who's Jack, what's his name from 24? That was the original thing. Jack Bauer. Yeah, he's Jack Bauer. And so if you do a show like in the style of 24, where you're unraveling a mystery as it happens and things come in the way, and he gathers companions, but it's it feels more like a gritty version of an 80s cop show in space, people fucking love it. And that is the only TV, or a video game that I think could turn into a movie or TV show well. But it has to be written with that in mind. Oh yeah, everyone loves noir. I mean, Miller is a very captivating character because he's unraveling the mystery along with everybody else, and he's dealing with his own shit and stuff like that, That could work really well. Yeah, if you did Mass Effect as a spy thriller, where you couldn't trust, Shepard couldn't trust anyone. He can't trust the council. He has to go on his own. He has the authority to do stuff on his own. No one can question him or her. In my opinion, I think you do the best Mass Effect version is with Shepard, female Shepard, because Fem Shep I think is the best, most engaging character in that universe, but that's also incredibly biased on my end because Fem Shep is the best Shep, hands down. For instance, they'd also probably have to screw things up. Ambassador Undina can't be just a dick. He needs to be a dick, but also good for the plot. There needs to be more interesting. The characters need to be a little bit more dynamic. They need to add a little bit more character flaws for each of the characters and the companions. They would really need to make Ashley racist. Straight up would have to happen. They need to really elevate the flaws of each of the characters to really bring out the drama, oh gosh, what's his name? I always kill him so I don't remember his name. In Mass Effect 1, spoilers for a very old game. The other companion you could have chosen from, really highlight his PTSD. Caden, thank you. Highlight his PTSD and his own kind of distrust. Listen, I will save Ashley every single time because at least she's a good soldier. Oh, I love the male Shep romance with Garrus. Who did Freddie Prinze Jr. play? I've heard rumors of an Honorverse series being pitched around for a while, though. But like, it's the way it's designed, the way it's built, fundamentally works if you make it a mystery and a cop show. Vega? Okay. Just have Keith David be Admiral, oh, I forgot his name. But yeah, just have him, just be him. He's fine. Admiral Hackett, yeah. That's the other thing that's really important to like really illustrate when it comes to video games, is that video game writing is garbage. It's the reason why, because like I kind of know what Squadron 42's story is. When everyone's like, what is it like? I really have to pause, because it's like I can't describe it without A, spoiling it, and B, like it's hard for me to like put it into words, because it's a video game. Like people coming into Squadron 42 being like, oh, Squadron 42 is going to be this amazingly well. It's like, it's Wing Commander levels. You liked Wing Commander stories. It's up there. I think it's better than most of the Wing Commander stories from what I've heard. It's got better acting. But like, at the end of the day, if you take a look at Squadron 42, I think it'll probably match up with a competent animated movie or series. Not like the best thing you've ever seen, but I think like story-wise and like narrative-wise, it's gonna be fine. And that's fine for video games, but it just wouldn't work on television or TV. You'd need to kind of massage the story, because a lot of the elements that make games fun do not translate well to television or movies, period. And as a result, the writing is going to come out as worse. Anderson. Hackett was Lance Henderson, yeah. WoW movie wasn't bad. It wasn't good. It wasn't bad. It was average. Isn't Keith David taking over the role of I forgot his name, who passed away recently, the legend. Hey Nubsley, how you doing, buddy? Zavala, yeah. Lance Reddick. That man had so much devotion to Destiny. It was nuts. That one dude. I forgot the actor's name. I just remembered that he is like the face of Destiny. Lance Reddick and Nathan Fillion were like the people that made Destiny good. Nobody else. I remember nobody else. And Lance Reddick has been in fucking everything. So. Yeah, I can't not hear. When I hear Destiny, it's Eyes Up, Guardian by Lance Reddick. Lance Reddick's way of that. It's just. Ugh. I thought Cade 6, spoilers, died. That wizard came from the moon. Oh, Dinklebot. mean, he is technically like a robot, so I don't know enough about Destiny lore to really know what the all of the different species are. I know there's humans, there's the technically aliens, right? The blue faced or like the darker tone. They're like not from Earth. The Awoken, yeah. And then there's the like more robotic ones. He did. They're bringing him back. Okay. He got better. What you're trying to say? He died, but he got better. Woken are fully human. Are formerly human. Okay. His plot shield recharged. I mean, that's the whole, like, for those of you who haven't been around Bungie's style of storytelling, this is nothing new. I expect the same thing from the new marathon game they're coming out with, which is they are cut from the same cloth as FromSoft, where a lot of the storytelling they're going to do is just, you have to know it. There's a lot of black, like missing pieces from the histories of Destiny games, from their history, which is intentional. And a lot of those histories that are told by unreliable narrators. Bungie loves their unreliable narrators and stories. So Destiny is perfect for that sort of storytelling because we just don't know what happened. Like, why the Traveler's there, what's going on. Like, you get pieces of here and there, and you get kind of more visions of what's going to happen in the future, but a lot of the stuff that happened pre-Traveler arrival is still very fuzzy. I'm sure they've expanded on it because that's the other thing that Bungie really enjoys, is to, once they have their mystery, they solve the mystery for everybody by reading 7,000 books or other stuff like that. But yeah. I know Biff. Biff is a fantastic lore creator. All right, Lynn Maria. Speaking of lore black holes, I'm desperate. Paul, desperate for these LZ NPCs to talk to each other. You and me both. You and me both. My issue with some of the lore isn't really easy to find because the little snippets on ships or sparrows you find. That's the FromSoft, what I mean. Like, FromSoft is very similar with most of its lore. Armor Core is probably it's one of its most like obvious stories and like lores, but even then, it's kind of has its own giant missing spots here and there. So. And Nightcop, that's another example of like one of the reasons why I'm having like issues with CIG right now is that, like, to be quite honest, like with following and doing Star Citizen stuff, it's like I've been doing lore for Star Citizen now for 3 years, and the actual state of lore in the game hasn't changed almost at all. We haven't had new lore in game. We haven't seen lore brought into game in any sort of meaningful capacity beyond like events, which are just sales. And most of the lore is still just found on the website or like in their own videos. There's just not a lot of meaningful interaction with the lore you can have in game, and that's frustrating. Oh, I love Republic Commando. I would fucking die if Respawn made a Republic Commando game. I would lose my shit. It's almost like they gave up writing. No, it's not even that. They've written plenty. It's just more like that the writers aren't getting their content in the game because the game isn't ready to support the content they want to make. That's what it is. They're envious of your audience. Trust me, I've talked with the writers enough to know that they really want that kind of stuff in game. You can see it in a lot of the monthly reports. Like, they are desperate to get that stuff in there. The Prisoner, thank you so much for that, the bits. I didn't see them biddies. They haven't had enough time. Like, I would kill for a mission giver to come back. Just one. You know, or to add more, you know, progressive missions, or an event that actually mattered for lore. You know? I mean, I'll settle for just NPCs talking lore to one another. But that feels like a pipe dream. It feels like CIG would be like, well, then if we did it, we'd have to do it right. And then they would spend 3 years coming up with the perfect idea. And then they develop a tool that lets them do it. And then 6 months after that, they'd throw in some placeholder lines that would kind of work for every location. And then they'd spend another 3 years figuring out if what they need to do with that, and then have to come up with a brand new tool to be able to replace all of for their new ideas, to replace everything else. That's what it feels like would happen. And I get it. There's a lot of other stuff they can do, but can't they put lore in with missions? That's the idea. That's what the lore writers are doing right now. The problem is that, like, when's the last time you read a mission? Read anything in the missions, or had any sort of interaction with the story or narrative of a mission, where it had any impact other than go to a location where giant like god arrow is telling you to go and shoot thing or retrieve thing. That's it. There's just not enough mission complexity for it to matter. Nah, I've just been salty about a lot of stuff today. That's all, Iris. Yeah, it's just... Hey, fair assault. Hey, don't talk about God Arrow. He my boy. He's just doing his job, bro. Hey, Leo. Read. I'm a gamer. I don't read. There's no plot progression. Trust me. Your complaints are valid. It's not even that. I don't even need plot progression. I just need stories, you know? You should call you Salty Paul. I said that earlier. It's Salty Paul. There was a Benny Hinge mission, but it was bespoke and they kind of abandoned it. Like, still, when you think of the gold standard for missions, I think most people still think the PI mission. Because it was, and I think CIG took the wrong lesson, which was do more PI missions, when the lesson should have been put more content in the missions. Like, the PI mission is the only branching mission chain that exists in Star Citizen. Hey, what's up, Tech Zero? Rockin' Stone. Shit, man. QPan, QPan says, I'd love to see or hear about Hurston and worker situations, just chatter. Fuck. That would be the fucking shit to have a workers' revolt on Hurston. Just a simple story where you have missions from a dude who gives you the same 4 or 5 lines, wild lines, for Hurston's security, and someone from the same 4 or 5 wild lines from the United Workers of Hurston, and fucking just random FPS battles in places with some context. Mwah. I would fucking die for that. What's your most underrated curveball? What is your most underrated curveball you expect to hear after CitizenCon? Underrated curveball? I mean, honestly, it would be anything to do with the quantum system or reputation. Like, I can't emphasize enough how important reputation is. And I know a lot of people like the idea, but like, I don't think the community is hyped as they should be for reputation. I think everyone focuses on PES, on server meshing, on to a lighter degree the economy, but like reputation is where this game is different from everything else. It's the only thing that happens. And I don't think a lot of people realize how important it is. I want the passenger transport missions and have a legal side pulling workers and rebels out of Hurston. Yeah. Elevators to take you to some underground part of Lorville for FPS battle? Yeah. I mean, even just like random UGFs, like underground facilities, where like you just have a voiceover that's like, the United Workers of Hurston hit up one of our facilities. We need you to go take it back, you know, and you've done good work. Yeah, credits are on the way, you know, or we're freeing the Hearst. We're freeing our brothers and sisters from the oppressive grip of the totalitarian Hurstons. We need you to assault this location and gather this data, and even if it's just like pick up a box and return it. And then afterwards, you know, your service to the revolution has been noted. You know, your credits have been updated and stuff like that. Just fucking like Star Marine style like voiceovers for like a couple of missions. You know. With that, they've talked about making Hurston NPCs feel different than Crusader NPCs. If Workers Revolt is your ideal scenario of bystander drama on Hurston, what are your ideals for Crusader, Hurston, ArcCorp, and Microtech virtue by their lore? Crusader, I'd expect a lot of familial drama, maybe some pressure from employers to take time off, or you know, like very what is that term? Very Beaver Cleaver, you know, Leave It to Beaver sort of like kind of feeling, like 50s Americana. Whereas someone like ArcCorp, I'd expect to have more of seedy undertone vibes, people talking about getting this rare thing or this thing that they, you know, past customs or whatever, you know, very noir and like cyberpunk inspired. And Microtech would be something more like like tech-oriented people talking about this latest IP that they're working on, or this latest Moby mod they've been doing. Everyone's hustling, like very hustle culture, you know, new tech, like sort of vibes, Silicon Valley, plasticky. Everyone's hustle, grind kind of stuff. Yeah, talking about pitching every product as if it's a mind-blowing, changing things. You're 7 minutes behind, but I want Karen Travis to be allowed to write another Republic Commando book. There's still some loose ends from the first 5. Yes, I believe with that. I agree with that there, Josh. What, Iris? What do you mean you depressed yourself? Emotional damage. Hey, Cat Mode Pants. It's been a salty office for now. We're gonna kind of move into the last little bit where we talk about the Squad 42 monthly report and get a little bit happier. But so if you're gonna write an interesting backdrop drama for each of these scenarios, i.e., rather than workers just complaining, or all of a sudden there's 1 month period where revolt's going on in the background in LZ, what would it be for the others? Oh, so you're talking about more of like what would be going on? I would have, like, for Crusader, have an increased amount of work. So people are working in longer hours. So you might see workers that are tired because, you know, they work military contracts. So having, like, a thing that would play in the background where you see workers that are coming home late. You see, like, as the night comes in, you see more workers coming off of the assembly line, or more people coming into those areas. For ArcCorp, it's hard to tell for that one. I would say that there should always be a constant, like, buzz of stuff going on. Maybe see some protests going on, whereas, like, with Hurston, it's, you know, any protest is immediately shot down. You might have more like gatherings or something like that. And with Microtech, it's got to be around like seasonal or something like that. Just saying, Paul, our standards are so low that the Mines of Moria called to report that they fell off the primary mine shaft. The Balrog wants to know why we're throwing crap at it. I realize my solution with Star Citizen has been that I have never treated it like a game that I want to play. That I can be very critical of CIG, Star Citizen, to still support the project. Your salt's been very good, Paul. It's helping me laugh at myself and start thinking Star Citizen. Yeah. Mandatory triple overtime, working 24-hour shifts 3 days a week. Yeah, stuff like that. What's the salt about this time? It's just more me talking about me talking about my own burnout situation with Star Citizen. So, like, it's hard for me to drag myself to make a lore video about Star Citizen when, you know, I constantly am facing the fact that there's literally been nothing significant in terms of lore added to the game since I started doing, like, the Galactic Historian and then Astro Historian videos. Like, it's never happened. In fact, if anything, lore has slowed down because they supposedly transitioned to make more lore for missions and other parts of the game which haven't come out yet. So it's like, wow, that sucks. I mean, I'm going to say the thing that everyone hates when I say it, but Star Citizen's still in development. So, like, I'm not too fucked that that a lot of this stuff isn't in, and, you know, the fact that I'm like, hey, I'd love to have some fucking scraps, please. Doesn't make me feel bad. It's more of a, like, it feels frustrating to see the time and energy put into Star Citizen's development and see the thing that, like, you're really into just get abandoned or just get put to the side. And it's one thing if it's like, oh, I'm really looking towards smuggling. And it's like, I get why smuggling isn't really in, but at least it's playable. There's no playable lore. Like, lore is the core of the game. It's the universe that it's supposed to take place in. And they spent so much time and effort developing it that it just sits in a website and never gets put into the game. So... pre-alpha early days. Yeah. I know a lot of people are like, oh yeah, it's pre-alpha. It's not in pre-alpha. It's been in alpha for a while. It's been in early access for a while. But they just fundamentally don't have the shit done they need to get done. And I know that's why a lot of people are frustrated. It's like, it would feel better if Star Citizen had at least PES and server meshing in the game, because at least that would feel like, okay, there's no more excuses, but the Elaine Ward mission. You're talking about the PI mission? Yeah, it's probably the closest we have to a story being told. Star Citizen still not playable? Hard to tell. It's playable in the sense that you can play the game. Are there bugs? Yes. Are there problems? Yes. Is it run better than it used to in the past? Yeah. There's still some other issues that happen. So it's more playable than it has been in the past year, but I wouldn't say it's a game that you could pull up with any problems right now. If that gives you the answer there, handshake, Andy. This is just usually this is a lore and news section that I do weekly, but since we're running up to the big event that they run, the big live, like, convention they have, and this is the first one they've had of a live convention since COVID. They basically, all of the information is just stopped, and it will basically be nothing until October. So end of October. So it feels like they stopped info early this year. Was it actually this bad last year? No, it wasn't. But the difference was that we had a letter from the chairman in May that kind of laid forward the ideas of what they were doing and what they had. So we had a lot of information well before CitizenCon rolled around. And CitizenCon was basically just a giant ISC, so they didn't have to hold as much information back, so they could still talk a lot. Now this is live. They have to, like, effectively stop talking about anything that's going to be at the live show, because they want to not spoil it. It's playable. You can log on and play the game. Your mileage may vary as to how it plays, but it's playable. Yeah, they'll remove the election posters, but I don't know when. Kind of like them being up, but I'd like them to be more weathered. I mean, yeah, PS is taking a lot of time. Server meshing, I assume, is taking up a lot of time as well, but... All right, so I'm going to go use the restroom one more time. When I come back, we're going to cover the Squadron 42 monthly report, so we kind of go through that. That'll be kind of a capsule, so I'll turn on your fun sound alerts.
Weapons free, y'all.
I'll be right back. Mute if you're on YouTube, because it's going to get annoying. Ugh.
Good news, everyone.
Bounty hunting is a complicated profession.
2 words. Distress bacon.
I'm just an old-fashioned cowboy.
Everybody and his dog calls himself an outlaw.
All right. Turn it off. No more fun. All right. Great example of acting is the guy who played Garrick in Starship Deep Space Nine. He didn't know how to play a spy interacting with the doctor of the show, so he played as being secretly attracted to him. Yeah. I love gay Garrick. Everyone loves gay Garrick. Garrick being gay is canonical in my mind. Yes, I silenced the belt. It's the best fucking relationship in the whole goddamn show. Paul, you're a smart, talented dude who knows lore. Maybe it's time for you to do some fan fiction vids. Nah, I'm not that talented for that sort of thing. I need a lot more other people. Thank you, though, Ashman. Bye could work too. Yeah. Well, you know, the two actors tried to do that. They tried to push for the for the characters to be like attracted to one another, but they got shot down because, you know, it was the 90s. Like that wasn't gonna fly on network television. Even though it was the best, you know, relationship like of any type in the show. Nah, they got plenty of people who do lore stuff better than I do in terms of like the writers and such. The important thing is there's no heterosexual explanation for Garrick. No, that man is at the very least a bicon. No, in Deep Space Nine. What I mean. They already have somebody who's a keeper. Anyways, they're pretty good. I think Jadzia as a character was more interesting before Worf, but I do like their relationship. But I mean, like I don't even think that Cisco and Jake's relationship is very good, or Jake and Nog. Like, I think they're okay, they're serviceable, but they're not as intriguing or interesting. Or Bashir's and O'Brien's relationship is kind of I mean, relationship is in like romantic and platonic, like the people working with and being with one another. So. Honestly, I think Worf and Martok have a better relationship than a lot of the relationships on DS9. DS9's fine, but it doesn't work because it has good relationship. It has good because it has good character dynamics. Like characters just bounce off of one another and into various locations, and it's great. It's conflict. That's what I like. I like my stories. Good conflict. All right. So, for those of you who've never seen this before, I'm going to be doing a capsule, which basically means this is the design for me. I'm going to record it specifically for YouTube. So, I won't be interacting with the chat a lot. If you have questions or other things, let me know after I'm done. Otherwise, it won't, I may not see it. So, don't get frustrated if you're asking me a question, I don't respond to it. So, all right. With that being said, let's start up the recording. Hello and welcome to another Office Hours capsule. That's right, capsule. This is a small section of my Office Hours live stream that I do on Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, twitch.tv/TheAstroPub and youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive. Come join us live, hang out with chat, and hear a little bit more about Star Citizen. We cover Star Citizen news, ISC. We talk about the latest developments in lore, lots of stuff like that. So if you enjoy this sorts of content and you want to see more long form content for live stream over hours, come join us. Again, twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive. And if you have been enjoying these videos that I cover, these monthly reports, make sure you like the video, subscribe, and comment down below for what you like. It helps out the algorithm, helps out the video in general. With that being said, this is the Squadron 42 monthly report for July of 2023. We've been doing these videos for a couple of years now, and generally speaking, the point of this is to cover the entirety of the monthly reports, from the beginning to the end. This isn't a summary. This is effective, kind of like an audiobook version of the monthly reports, but I'm going to add in a little bit of explanations here and there, especially if something has been happening month to month to month. There may be some references to stuff they've done in the past, which I'll add in a little bit of flavor and try to explain a little bit that's going on. So without any further ado, let's jump into the Squadron 42 monthly report for July of 2023. All right. AI content. Last month, AI content made a strategic decision to concentrate resources on a single location, which brought several benefits. One being more iterative review process, as they now meet daily with leadership and receive detailed feedback, allowing them to raise the quality bar to a shippable level. What? Okay, immediately that's scaring me. They said the word shippable. Like done. Additionally, this fostered greater teamwork and knowledge sharing among team members, expanding developer skill sets. They also progressed with the hangar and mess hall locations. In the hangar, they introduced an overseer behavior that underpins supervisors for the deck crew, ordnance officers, and refuelers. They underpin supervisors for the deck crew, ordnance officers, and fuelers. These supervisors dynamically interact with their colleagues using data pads to oversee their work, similar to a middle manager role. For the landing officer, they drew inspiration from aircraft carrier takeoff and landing videos to create realistic deck crew actions. In the mess hall, scripted AI was added alongside random systematic interactions. This allows the team to implement more interesting actions that might be challenging to achieve with a solely systematic approach. For example, a new addition sees NPCs watch and react to a TV show. Looking ahead, the team will shortly move on to various interior locations. We're having in-game TV shows in Squadron 42? That's kind of big. There's a lot of big information in that one. Whew. Whew. Spicy. AI features. In July, AI features improved the quality of various behaviors, including unrestraining. For example, AI can now wake up while restrained and call out to others to come rescue them. They also developed interfaces and behaviors for AI-driven vehicles equipped with specific radar gadgets. This enables the AI to locate enemies when they hide or move out of sight. Work continued on close combat encounters to ensure that the AI locomotion performance looks good, which included integrating a few performance capture animations. Where was I? Environmental searches were also improved to allow NPCs to evaluate their environment and attempt to flank the target using cover locations. The team are currently improving the combat behavior that allows NPCs to use med pens to heal themselves in combat. AI features continue to implement Buddy AI. This is the thing that allows them AI to follow players and react to them and players to basically escort stuff, including a behavior that enables the buddy to crouch and locomote between cover. Buddies now also have improved reviving, acknowledging when the player is downed or unconscious. On the animation side, polish was done on a variety of features, including grenade throwing, healing, unrestraining, crouch sharp turns, and weapon reloads. So a lot of this seems to be finishing up behaviors for this. There's a lot of polishing being done, which could be good or could be bad. AI tech. Now, this is probably a retread from the Star Citizen monthly report, so I'll read through it, but note that that's probably not a lot of new information. Last month, AI tech finalized their work to allow NPCs to transition between EVA and environments with gravity. This required an update to the usable's code, including exposing it to enter and exit location information. Now NPCs can enter and exit ships through airlocks or hatches by vaulting over ledges. The team also implemented simple behaviors and assignments for entering and exiting ships, which compute a path to a location and utilize the most suitable usable to finish the transition. On the navigation side, AI tech upgraded navigation links to connect two volumes from different zones, which is needed for moving platforms. The previous implementation only allowed for links between parent and child zones, rather than between two unrelated zones. Further optimizations and improvements were made for navigation mesh raycasts too. AI tech also picked up ongoing work on Boids. They're currently working on 2D Boid agents, such as rodents, that will move across terrain with the confines of the navigation mesh. They're also adding constraints to avoid navigation mesh edges to ensure that the Boids stay inside navigable areas. Next, they'll look into Boids agents playing animations while moving or idling. The subsumption editor received numerous improvements, including a variable type editor, the ability to copy-paste states while editing mastergraph, improved views on how mastergraph transitions are presented, and improved activity view improved the activity view for available subactivities and functions, and a validation panel that represents errors and warning when loading and saving files. Excuse me. Various features and AI systems received improvements too. For the usable group coordinator, designers saw how now specifically that a group of NPCs should synchronize when transitioning from one group of usables to another. For NPCs pushing trolleys, the team optimized the PID controller and adjusted the default parameters to stabilize quicker after returning on a path. For NPC perception of audio stimuli, AI tech began using functionality exposed by the audio team, which will utilize the room system to understand if an audio event should be received. Good. I guess that was all on the Star Citizen month report. AI vehicles. Vehicle AI focused on supporting level design throughout July. Vehicle AI has a significant impact on level design, especially for flight chapters, so time was spent looking into issues, supporting designers, and adding new features. Further work was done to integrate a new vehicle aiming system into AI. NPC pilots will make use of the new system just like players, which has resulted in significantly improved AI accuracy. Though this requires balancing, they now have much more control than before. Improvements and changes were made to atmospheric flight. Now, when in atmosphere, AI fly with control surfaces and dogfighting reverts to a more traditional get-on-your-six style of combat. As part of this, the team wanted to give players more opportunities to get behind the AI. So now, enemies occasionally make mistakes and break away, leaving windows they didn't before. This has resulted in a far more enjoyable experience. All right, that's pretty good. Animation. Last month, the animation team moved from alpha to beta work, including this involved improving the visual results of reloads and takedowns, as well as basic idles for weapons and knives. Since this is likely going to be on the front on the YouTube video and you all came here to see it, this is a big statement. I don't think CIG has ever officially said beta in any of these updates. Now, does this mean anything massive? I don't know. It feels pretty big that animation is now focusing on polishing and improving what they have rather than creating new animations out of whole cloth. This is what it seems to be. Or at least for things like reloads, takedowns, and basic idles, and with weapons and knives. That sounds pretty big, especially with everything else we've seen with Squadron 42 up till now. So time will tell if this is a huge step towards the completion of Squadron 42, but this is one more sign along a whole road filled with signs that Squadron 42 seems to be entering a new phase of development for CIG. Now, as always, let me know if I'm huffing the copium in the chat below, or in the chat, but in the comments below. I do want to hear your thoughts about this, something like this, because this is a pretty big statement. So hopefully we'll see more information and more stuff on this. So the team continued working on a background and systematic AI, taking a longer role in driving visual fidelity. They also kicked off reload animations for enemy spec ops weapon types and began implementing 2 high-intensity combat fights. They're currently making updates to player-prone animations and adding an increasing number of player interactions to improve immersion in specific environments. So for those of you who don't know, there was a huge update where they've changed how player-prone works. It's now using the systems they developed for EVA 2.0, or the improved EVA system, where like you're kind of more like Superman flying when you're moving around the EVA rather than standing up straight like we do now. And they've added that system to improve like how you go prone and how you roll and stuff like that. It's slightly different. We haven't seen it visually yet, but that's what they've talked about. On the facial side, the team continued developing final quality facial animations for various cinematic scenes, alongside supporting new incoming lines for combat and social AI. Again, that seems to be indicating that they're wrapping up lots of animation aspects with the game, which tends to correspond with what they've talked about when the cinematics team talked a little bit about it. There seems to be at least large sections of the game which are in more of a beta stage rather than a alpha stage. This is just another report that's following a series of reports with similar statements. So, well, we'll see probably sooner than later about this. Support is also ongoing for 2 mocap shoots, one for narrative requirements and another for an ad hoc social and combat AI needs. So for instance, to tell the difference, like cinematic would be for like all the major players or major events being put in the story, but they still have things like ad hoc social, and it looks like they at least have one mocap shoot for narrative requirement. So not entirely finished. But they've also been calling people back for things like reshoots, which you tend to not do until you have a good idea of what you want to reshoot and kind of fill out. So, interesting to see. Audio. Audio continued their ongoing task of tagging generic animations with new Foley sound effects. This will add new immersion game-wide, including non-gameplay scenes such as cinematics, where generic animations are reused. The team also designed and implemented new weapon sound effects, a significant step to improving the sound across all FPS features. Several gadgets received their initial audio pass in pursuit of having sound on all interactable devices across the campaign, too. We just saw an ISC talking about audio, and it sounds like the audio team is mostly focused on Squadron right now, and to try to bring up Squadron to a high level, so who knows. Audio also assisted in the workload of planned flight experience improvements, identifying areas of tech that need developing or improving. Alongside this, the technical sound team will soon begin writing up a new vibration system to amplify the tension and immersion of dogfights and large space battles to greatly improve the overall flight experience. Time was spent reviewing all existing ambience work in preparation for the next stage of development. Currently, all base ambience is implemented, which will be refined with smaller nuanced details. They also completed the sound design for the large turrets that players can use during the early portion of the game. The cannon effects were redesigned to sound more powerful and beefier, while the Gatling turrets received new barrel spin effects. Finally, for audio, the dialogue team spent time on set shooting a selection of scenes and mastering in-game dialogue. All right. I am not an engineer. I cannot turn rocks into replicators. I do not know how to assemble and disassemble a electric car from rote memory, and I do not know the will of the Omnissiah. I am but me, simple, smooth-brained me. If you are an engineer, you may be able to help me out by explaining what's going on in this engine section. Please do let me know in the comments below for this, but just keep in mind I'm still going to read through it as best I can. I will try to explain what's going on to the best of my ability, but I'm not an expert on this. So, engine. The core engine team progressed with the development of Starfield, the new in-house code build system that will replace WAF last month. They fixed issues and implemented improvements based on feedback from wider dev use. For Mem Replay 2.0, the team introduced virtual memory areas as a concept to the memory allocation system, which will better track OS committed memory and provide an improved visualization of sub-allocations. Progress was then made on removing the remaining map and write Discord calls in the renderer in preparation for the new Vulkan backend. They also reworked the game launcher code structure to reduce code duplications and enable Linux-based headless clients, which will help with automatic testing. The physics team continued helping the game teams fix various physics-related bugs in the game code. They also updated the new cloth system and Maelstrom and began improving active animated ragdolls. The Entity System team primarily supported various technical initiatives, including Rastar and the Resource Network. This involved exploring ways to create and limit generated locations to provide a rich experience without negatively impacting performance. Finally, they provided bug fixes for the recently enabled async editor loading and are currently adding more safety checks for correct entity access. Chat saying they're looking for memory leaks. Okay. Features, gameplay. So, I don't know if we'll get to this, but it's important to, when we start getting into this areas, to remind y'all that the game is actually, Squadron 42 is broken into 3 separate distinct sections: social, FPS, and dogfight. And the game will transition you between those 3 sections, and there are 3 I think it's all under one team, but there are 3 separate sub-teams which work on each one, and then communicate with one another about how the transition between them. So keep that in mind when we're looking at some of these later things when we start talking about gameplay. July saw work begin on the in-game sim pod, where players can load into different simulations to practice their skills. This is a fairly involved process where we need to teleport the player into a new environment, change the loadout and status, change the game mode and game rules, and restore everything back when the simulation is finished. It's not like the Matrix. If you die in the simulation, you don't die in real world. The gameplay features. I guess, yeah, that works. Elsewhere, a pass was done on formation flying on feedback from the ongoing mission reviews. This led to various changes, including how players join the formation, the way it flies to match the orientation of the leader, and numerous UI improvements. Progress was also made on the minimap, including culling markers outside the camera view and clipping important markers into the to the view edge. New markers for dangerous objects such as grenades and missiles were added to both the minimap and star map 2. Grenades on the star map? That's a big grenade. All right. Features vehicle. Last month, the vehicle features team worked alongside level design teams to close out various chapters and improve how the game plays and feels. One of the key areas is the vehicle aiming and gunnery system. This is something that's mentioned a couple times in this report. As part of this, the team explored options to make aiming more challenging, which is partially driven by the slightly overpowered auto gimbal system. New aiming modes, dynamic zooming on targets, and other elements will make the combat experience more engaging. Control surfaces was finalized last month, with the team making UI changes to show additional information, including stall speed, select mode, and thruster and control surfaces. Further control options will be considered following playtesting. Vehicle features also began supporting the physics teams with physical damage tech, which requires a lot of low-level vehicle system refactors. This will update vehicles to use much more modern systems in the engine and work far better with physical damage than other recent features. July's work on multifunction displays, MFDs, focused on scanning. This is by far the most complex MFD screen, showing information from the scanned target and allowing players to find out about its internal components by utilizing a deeper scan. This is now working as intended. Turret seats are currently being converted to use the new MFD system. Turrets have also a modified version of the vehicle self-status MFD, which shows more turret-level information. Another smaller UI element worked on was the rearm and refuel terminal located at some landing pads. This required a few UI tech elements, which were resolved. Lastly, the vehicle loadout terminal is now largely functional, allowing players to see all the items available in their profile and equip them onto their ships in the Idris hangar. Vehicle features are currently working with the UI team to finalize how the terminal will look. Gameplay story. At the start of July, Gameplay Story completed the setup of the air traffic control ATC operator seat. They followed this by updating all of their scenes that involve operator seats to work with approved metrics. This was quite a big undertaking, but it was great to see so many scenes that have been blocked for a long time finally get to a finished state. Gameplay Story team. Alongside this, they did an implementation pass for a scene on Chapter 12 and used new mocap to update the start of a scene in Chapter 14. Recently, Gameplay Features joined a large strike team to review and improve animations on the Idris. Last month, this involved creating a new track views for deck crew entering the Gladius cockpit, checking the Gatling gun, and testing the main thrusters. Graphics, VFX, and programming. This is kind of like engine version 2. So there'd be a lot of stuff I don't really know. Several new features were added to the global illumination system last month, including the initial implementation of temporal smoothing for screen space probes, which will produce more stable results at lower cost. G-buffer support was also added to the environment probes to provide a cheap scene representation for secondary light sources. In addition, new debug modes were added alongside the new mechanism to gather lights for the GI system. Basic implementation of the temporal super resolution was completed, which will continue to receive fixes and improvements as it's integrated into the graphics engine. AMD's memory allocation API was integrated into the Vulkan backend, improving the system's stability, streaming speeds, and buffer read times. A new reduction in streaming/rendering dependencies has improved the performance, and new parameters will allow the devs to modify the graph render's shader stage and ownership state. These features were added alongside ongoing bug fixes to visual regression tests with a focus on the render-to-texture system. As part of the ongoing UI refinements and unifications, the silhouette/highlight feature is currently being improved with a softer and brighter outer glow. The mini-map also received a ping effect, which will blink around the objects for improved in-game navigation. Feature Team is working to bring a new unified water shader to the game, alongside adding details such as puddles that splash on impact and fixing collision detection issues on large water volumes. A new system to manage water simulations is also in progress that will activate regions upon collision, deactivate them when they have settled, and constantly monitor and protect performance by limiting active simulations. Meanwhile, a new hash map system for allocating water buffer regions and larger surface area friendly water volumes is actively being worked on, so the new unified water buffer system can be enabled by default. The World Builder system saw a variety of improvements last month, including a major refactor to the high-level logic that runs background jobs, which should significantly reduce latency, avoid stalls, and simplify the code. In addition, Planet Ocean patches no longer render in duplicates, and the Planet streaming system was fixed for Gen 12. The VFX programming team fixed issues impacting damage maps. Attached objects now correctly update their damage maps, and an issue causing unexpected data to appear in snapshots is being investigated. For VFX-specific work, an issue preventing group child effects from spawning correctly was addressed, and bugs on separator tags and external references were fixed. Multiple Squadron 42 specific issues were resolved too, such as gas cloud lighting problems, inconsistent damage maps, and a crash in Chapter 7. In addition, the planet effects now use LOD Coal to prevent unnecessary simulation when an object is out of bounds. The team added functionality to allow plasma ammunition to attach to characters. That sounds terrifying. Level design. Level design's main focus throughout July was interstitials, including bug fixing and maintenance. With all of the team's scenes content now in game, they moved to ensuring scenes reach the expected quality threshold of adding specific details. For example, are characters in their correct outfits? Are they aligned to the environment/props? Do they interrupt or rejoin points work as intended? Are they head tracking? Do they work from various approach angles? This significant undertaking requires working closely with cinematics, gameplay story, and character teams to iron out various issues. Outside of the scenes, progress was made on fail states. For example, punching a colleague will see the players taken to the brig and getting dressed down from a superior. Work continued on save and checkpoints too. I'm going to be honest, that's ooh. I don't want to say the good thing because we can't have good things in Star Citizen or in Squadron 42. That sounds like level design is finished. Like they're working on the in-betweens with level designs, stuff that's not like the main level design. So it's done? Maybe? They didn't say the B word, so it's hard to tell. But again, that's just another kind of pile, things added to the pile in terms of stuff that CIG seems to be at least heading towards beta. Now, obviously, beta and release are completely different things, but Squadron 42 seems to at least be trucking towards the some kind of beta state. It has been over this last year. Narrative's focus on July was preparing for the 2 upcoming performance capture shoots. That's the ones that were mentioned earlier in the monthly report. Dialogue is used to support so many gameplay features that there have been a lot of recent reviews to ensure that the tutorials, instructions, and help that various characters provide are in alignment with the gameplay experience. The team also identified several dialogue triggers that occur more frequently than initially estimated, so they went back to capture more line variants so that players won't have to hear the same audio as frequently. These recording sessions also mean that much of the team's placeholder dialogue will soon be replaced by the actual performances. People across the studio are making sure to enjoy these inspired temporary performances by fellow team members while they still can. Narrative team. That's very good. Additionally, the team supported localization, assisting with subtitle validation. This process will be ongoing as some of the more recently captured audio still needs to go through the pipeline. It's important that the actual audio recordings are validated to the script to ensure that the subtitles are accurate as possible, as accurate as possible. As often during recording session processes, actors will slightly adjust their lines to make them sound more natural. Okay. Research and development. In July, further updates were made to the atmosphere and volumetric cloud rendering. Guided sampling used in the Cloud Raymarcher was updated based on last month's improvements to transmissions profiles. The profiles themselves received additional filtering, stochastic resampling, to reduce occasional block artifacts due to profile reuse. Moreover, the temporal renderer mode currently being developed for atmosphere and volumetric clouds was switched to a low discrepancy-based sequence of sample offsets that are used to set up rays for ray marching over time. Based on recent research publications, cloud shadow maps can now be stochastically filtered, which considerably improves the performance and render quality. The new temporal render mode will use the stochastic texture filter by default. UI. July saw the UI team iterating on displaying layouts for Squadron 42's flyable vehicles to ensure they all look and feel unique, but retain the ease of use built on throughout the project. The concepts for the second main vehicle in the game are now signed off and ready to add, and UI are working closely with the vehicle's artists in the cockpit for the third. That's pretty fast. So we're seeing layouts for the second main vehicle and the third main vehicle. For those of you who don't know, the main vehicle is the Gladius. So that's the first one we use. So some of the other ones are coming up there. It's interesting. The multi-tool UI was also updated to make it much simpler and cleaner, while improvements were made to the AR markers and health widget. UI also updated several interaction menus and continued developing one of the key 3D displays in the game. The core technology team improved building blocks runtime performance as the recent addition to the new UI assets led to an increase in size and complexity. This involved coding more aggressive solutions for skipping hierarchy selector updates, which led to reduced CPU footprint and significant performance gains. The team also continued adding new features to bindings and building blocks, including a color picker, pagination widget, and stepped lines for designers. Finally, UI worked alongside graphics to develop a new internal map system to help players navigate the game's complex cities, planets, and capital ships. This will be a real game changer for players, and we're really excited to see its progress. VFX. Last month, the VFX team continued to focus on fire propagation, with the shader improvements from the previous month adding greatly to the overall visual quality. The artists created new fire particles, including looping fire texture sequences, to work in harmony with the shaders. The results, though still work in progress, are very encouraging, the VFX team. Further improvements were also made to gas cloud lighting effects, including a new option to allow lighting to follow a moving vehicle. All right. So, let's do a quick summary for all of y'all who just joined us as well. Generally speaking, Squadron 42 seems to have entered, portions of it seem to have entered beta. Specifically, level design, animation, and the gameplay story side of things, as well as lots of kind of finalizations for vehicle and vehicle gameplay and other gameplay aspects. There seems to be overall a general trend towards the parts of the game which aren't directly playable being finished, in the sense that like the directly playable stuff is now being added for They're adding the details. They're adding the characters in the background, making sure that they have the right outfits on, make sure they're entering areas which they should be doing. It's more of a like even like what happens when you punch your superior officer? You get dragged to a brig. Like that whole aspect of the game, which isn't essential to the core of the game. It's more stuff that it's nice but isn't done yet. So overall, it's a good sign. But to keep things more or less like tempered, just because Squadron 42 seems to be marching towards beta doesn't mean that the game is going to release anytime soon. Beta can take a long time. So if Squadron 42 is possibly coming to a beta before the end of the year, which would be a fantastic outcome, it's good. It's just doesn't mean that you suddenly will see Squadron 42 releasing in 12 months. We don't know. So keep that, keep it level, keep it mellow. But overall, it's actually a pretty good monthly report. There's a lot of new and exciting things. But as always, I want to hear your thoughts in the comments below, and I want to thank those of you who are joining us live. Remember to join us live Thursdays at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific, to kind of come in and join the discussion. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. All right, I'll get through some of this stuff. I'm not finishing up. I was finishing up the recording. So I had to kind of wait for a little bit. Thank you for that raid there, Zero State. How you doing? Welcome everyone from Zero Street Stream. You just kind of caught us towards the end of the monthly report read. So how was Zero? What were you all up to? I'm looking forward to the inevitable rebuild of the animations and AI behavior. I used to put it on the podcast. I actually did one of them on the podcast, and it didn't really do so well. So it's hard for me to kind of justify that. So Zero smells, don't we all? I hope he smells. I hope he's able to smell very well. Yeah, it's a new haircut. Shaved and got a haircut before school started. So yeah, I can imagine. I gotta head out here shortly too because I gotta get up bright and early for education, to educate the youth. How long do you think the average playthrough for Squadron 42 will be? I would say 15 to 20 hours. Depends on skill. I think the average will probably be in the teens. But someone asked earlier is Squadron 42 chapters 1 through 27, are those all part of part 1? Yeah, that's all part of part 1. There's actually 3 separate games that they've been planning on building. Pop quiz, you get an extra 5 points if you can answer what term used the words beta on the Squadron 2 monthly report. Yeah, there we go. Yeah, it's I don't want to because, whenever you say something like Squadron 42 like it is on track for X, somebody comes out of the woodwork and screams, "Answer the call 2016." And you're like, oh, fucking shut the fuck up. Like... Probably burn people's eardrums out for that one. I try to be quiet. The Utes, yeah. It's hard to tell. But in terms of like how long Squadron 42 will be in beta, my guess is at least a year, probably longer. I mean, they aren't wrong. Well, it's kind of like people running around screaming "Scam Citizen," because it's like it's not engaging or helpful. It's just a meme. You know, it's like, okay, I get it. You don't give a shit. So like, fuck off. So it's like, so I'm trying to come across as like a, hey, I get why people are a little cautious about anything that's being done, but there's a fucking lot of shit that's falling into place that CIG is talking about that nobody seems to care, because it's like, CIG is not subtle. I have to constantly tell that to people. CIG is not subtle. If they're doing something, they tell you about it. And there's a fucking lot they're telling about it. I can't imagine, because, you know, I think I pulled out and noticed the whole mention of beta and animations when this first came out. But I didn't read through the entirety of it until recently. There's a lot of indications saying completed this, moving on to this, and completed main work and moving on to subs, like small work, interstitials and stuff like that. It's like, that sounds like a game that's finishing production. And of course, finishing production, meaning it's going into the stage which can take a long time, making sure that it doesn't just play good, but looks good, feels good, and makes sense. Now, I think for certain we're going to see Squadron 42 have some sort of announcement at CitizenCon. At best, it will be a release date. At worst, it'll announce that they're finishing up alpha work and moving into beta. And I think if CIG announces a release date, they'll announce it for the fall of 2024. And I also don't think they'll hit that. I think it'll get pushed back to at least the spring of 2025, but also more than likely the fall or winter of 2025. I think 2 years from the completion, or from the entry of beta, from the game enters beta, is probably a good solid idea. It's going to take them a while to really massage the game to make it work. But hopefully it means we'll get more information out there than just words on a page. Audiobook report, yes. It's 27 chapters, 15 to 20 hours each, or all of part 1 is 15 to 20. Last we heard, Squadron 42, if you did all of the side missions, was going to be about 40 hours. So if you just did the main mission, it would be about 20 hours of content for the main mission alone. All right, y'all. I'm going to wrap this up here shortly, because we've been streaming for 3 hours. I want Squadron 42 to be a big hit. CIG has taught me to manage my expectations. I think Squadron 42 is going to be a surprise. I will say that. I have enough exposure to what's going on in Squadron 42's story to say that I think people are going to be surprised by what Squadron 42 is. And from the initial trailer reactions, I think a lot of people will think it's actually an animation. Because that's what happened, is a lot of people thought that when the original Squadron 42 trailer came out, they're like, this looks like a great like animated series or movie. And people are like, no, that's a video game. So I think it will have a bigger impact than people realize. I don't think it's going to be a smash blockbuster hit out the gate. I think it'll have a slow burn. If it releases well, it will have a slow build of audience as people catch on to it and enjoy it. But that may take several months. So But I'm not so naive to think that Squadron 42 is going to be the best game of all time or even be a smash hit. I'd hope it's able to make enough money so that it justifies, at least like it makes as much money that CIG makes in a year in one release. That would be great. $100 million. That sounds like a ridiculous amount, but it's not all that much for most games of Squadron 42 size. So it like, for those of you who don't know, I accidentally spoiled myself on Squadron 42 story. And kind of like how generally how it works through audio files and stuff like that. And I will tell you that I'm not gonna, no spoiling because I don't want to spoil anybody else, is that if you've played Wing Commander, you'll enjoy it. It's like a modern Wing Commander game, like an up-to-date modern Wing Commander game with really good actors. That's pretty much it. It'll be better than Sudoku, yeah. Yeah, I think it'll introduce a lot of people to Chris Roberts' style of Wing Commander games, which haven't been around in a long time. But, you know, modern graphics, updated gameplay, that sort of thing. It's CR. He can't help but reference his old games. CR does nothing but make the same game over and over again. Squadron 42 is Wing Commander, and Star Citizen is Freelancer, the MMO. Like, he just slowly improves it over time. You can find all of the Wing Commander games on GOG, Good Old Games. All of them are there. And they actually have, they're on DOSBox, so you can actually play them on modern PCs. You say that as if it's a bad thing? I mean, the thing is that, not to poo-poo on Chris Roberts, but Wing Commander is corny. It's very corny. It's not bad, but it definitely is dated. And I'm hoping that it keeps some of the cheese, but doesn't go full-blown cheese like Wing Commander is. Yeah, at the time, there was nothing quite like it. I got that, but the gameplay itself is hard. It's a hard game to play. It's a hard game to beat. No, I mean, even for like of the time, it's very difficult. And I think that's really, okay, that's likely what's going to shine through with Squadron, is that it's not going to be an easy game. For those of you who don't know, when Chris first started to talk about Star Citizen, he talked a lot about his influences for making Star Citizen and Squadron 42. And one game that came up all the time was Demon Souls, aka Dark Souls. He said he played the shit out of it when he was first, you know, coming up with Star Citizen and Squadron 42. And he, this is before like everything was the Dark Souls of whatever. And what he really took away from it was how the game made you feel like you accomplished something by giving you a challenge that didn't insult you. They didn't make it uber hard for the sake of it being too hard, but also not that's something that wasn't super easy and like gave you something. It made you learn how the game worked and work with what the game gave you, allowed you to do. That's really a lot of the kind of core elements of Star Citizen and Squad 42's initial development. So there are likely going to be times in Squadron 42 where it feels like you've gone 10 rounds in a prize fight with a gorilla. Where like you are given tasks which seem impossible and your job is to make it happen somehow. I can see that. Star Citizen feels like unfair Mario sometimes. And that's, I mean, the thing is a lot of Star Citizen, when it works, can be challenging. It's just so many other things, so. X-Wing and TIE Fighter were more complex, but still not as difficult as Wing Commander. A week for Armored Core 6? Yes. Looking forward to that. Yeah, well, EVE also requires literal time investment, where Star Citizen doesn't ask you to sink a month of your life to make the game good. So I'm going to wrap this up and call it a night. But after all of the salt, I will say this Squadron 42 monthly report did make me a little bit more optimistic. Maybe a little bit of hope. Tiny little bit of hope is burning inside me. A little bit. I'm like, Okay, CIG. Okay. I see you. I see what you're doing. Now just please put some of this stuff in Star Citizen, please. Just a little bit of hopium. Just micro-dosing on hopium. Thank you again for joining us. We'll be back. I'll try to be back tomorrow. I may or may not. I can't confirm it. If I do, it'll be playing Star Citizen. There's another project that's coming up, and I'll have to make an announcement about it because it's going to pop up. A lot of people can start seeing it pop up on some of my feeds. And I'll be like, sorry, this is a thing I have. Sorry. Sorry. Not sorry as in bad, but sorry as in like, I'm sorry I have this now. Hate me later. There is Starfield lore that I'm going to be doing. I'm doing a timeline because Bethesda released an official timeline of the settled systems, which I'm doing a video on. And I'm almost finished writing the script, and it's already 5 pages long, which is like, for those who don't know, my lore videos, one page of script is about 2 minutes. So that means it's already 10 minutes, and I'm not quite done yet. So it's probably ended up being about 12 to 15 minutes, which is a pretty good thing. But there's other stuff as well. Any excitement for Armored Core? I'm gonna play it when it comes out. I don't know when it's coming out, but I'll play it. And I'm gonna die a lot because I'm not used to it. So I'll have to get used to it. But yes, I'm always a big fan of mecha, and so we'll definitely play a little bit out here. Do I think Star Citizen is dying? No, I don't think Star Citizen's dying. I think we're in a drought period, and when CIG releases content that can get people hype, they'll come back. It's just, for those of you who are not new to Star Citizen or newer to Star Citizen, this period sucks because once you hit around July and August, CIG just stops talking about things and focuses on focuses on CitizenCon. So it feels like nothing's being talked about. And right now, on top of that, we're kind of getting a middling patch with 3.20 in terms of progression in the game. We're really waiting for 4.0 to drop, which could be a while. So there's a lot of we're just kind of in a double whammy of drought. But post CitizenCon, the hype will come back up and people will get interested in it. Just always happens like that. Just spill it? I can't. Luna Maria, I'll basically say this. there's an NDA involved. That's why. Anyways, thank you all for joining us. Thank you for watching. I'll be back again on Friday. I'll definitely be back on Saturday. Saturday is a good salty theme. The pull it up. The schedule for next week is Hey, it's Nick and Griffin RPG. The topic is the endless road to Pyro for Captain's Table. We're going to talk about what's going on with Pyro, what's like what we've seen, where the heck's what's the heck's going on, where's it going? Will we ever get there? Is the CIG still even realize we're waiting? All that sort of stuff. So it's going to be a little bit of assault, but we're going to kind of talk a little bit about the history of it and going and so forth. But yeah, thank you all for watching, and like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.